sound up. All right. The best thing in sports is when a highly hyped event delivers. This delivered. UNC has defeated Duke 81-77. That's right. This ends Coach K's illustrious coaching career. You thought maybe you get the fairy tale ending on Monday night in a championship game? No. It does go to the Final Four, but it ends in the national semifinal and ends to his biggest rival. Caleb Love, 28 points for Carolina. He had none in the first 15 minutes. Remember, he had that huge second half against UCLA? Did the same thing here. Armando Bacot, who fouled out with just under 5 to go. 11 points, 21 rebounds in the win. For Duke, Paolo Banchero had a 20-10 game in the loss. But Carolina, who beat Coach K in his final game at Cameron, now beat him in his final game overall in the national semifinal. So Monday night, it is set. It's going to be Kansas and Carolina for the title as Carolina, the 8th seed, goes on and gets it done. They were in foul trouble. Armando Bacot had a little twisted ankle. There come some issues. They didn't want to play anybody but their starting 5. But somehow, some way, with an exhausted team, they gut out a win against Duke. They come back in the second half and get themselves a W, and now will play for the title against Kansas. Let's head out to New Orleans. Akeem Dermish, Avery Johnson, Tim Doyle.
That game was awesome, and Avery Johnson predicted it. North Carolina victorious, sending Coach K into retirement. Your reaction is what to what you just saw?
Congratulations to Hubert Davis. I know a lot of this story is going to be about Coach K, but Hubert Davis did a masterful job of coaching his team to the finals on Monday night. I tried to tell you, if they get hot from behind the three-point line in the second half, which they did. Love came out, hit 2 threes early to start the second half. Manic got hot from 3, even though he didn't make he was 50% from the free throw line. But again, this team, if the game was close in the last 4 minutes, that North Carolina was going to win the game. It's too much pressure. Duke misses 2 free throws.
Mark Williams
missed. That's going to stay with him for the rest of his life. Missed 2 free throws. Caleb Love made his free throws down the stretch. And when you look at what we talked about before the game, remember what we talked about. There's no I in team, but there's an I in win in individual. Caleb Love outscored and won his matchup with A.J. Griffin. A.J. Griffin, 6 points, Caleb Love, 28. That's a significant differential.
You know, at halftime, Carolina had made 3 threes. I asked Coach, I said, how many threes did they have to make in the second half? 5, 8? He said 5 or more, they made 7. And Caleb Love can shoot you out of a game. He could also shoot you into a dub. We saw it multiple times now in the tournament. He did it against UCLA, 27 points in the second half, and he did it in this game. 22 points in the second half. He does some things that you're like, oh, Caleb Love, but then he makes the big 3, he makes the big free throw, and I said this tournament was going to come down to 2 things, the 3-point line and the free throw line. Duke, 5 of 21 from 3. They got outscored by Carolina by 15 points at the 3-point line, and they went 12 of 20 from the free throw line. I'm sorry, you're trying to win a national championship? You got to do the little things. North Carolina earned and deserved this dub.
And it didn't help that Mark Williams got into early foul trouble. We saw that in the first matchup of the season, right? Armando Bacot, early foul trouble in the first game of the season. Duke won that game. It sort of set the tempo because Duke came out a little flat. North Carolina started the game well, and it transpired into the rest of the half. We saw Duke take the lead in the first half. We said, okay, they weren't playing to their potential. But what happened down the stretch?
Well, it wasn't even down the stretch. You guys remember, because obviously we were watching the game, North Carolina had a significant run to start the second half. What was it, a 13-0 run, 11-0 run?
A 13-0 run.
13-0 run. And that gave them a tremendous amount of confidence. So Duke was playing uphill. They were playing catch-up. You use a lot of energy when you're playing catch-up. One of the things that allowed North Carolina and Hubert Davis to do was not rely on his bench. His bench played 13 minutes, and they only scored 2 points, and it was the 2 free throws by Johnson when the big fella got in foul trouble.
Important free throws, but he made them. Those were huge free throws. He went to the free throw line. I believe it tied the game up. It's simple. Carolina made the plays. You know what I mean? Like in the Kansas game, you want to know why Kansas won? They made a lot of three-pointers. Like Banchero can't go the last 2:38, no shots. You know, that's the one thing, like, when I go down, I kind of want my guy taking me down.
Yeah.
He had 20 points with 2:38 left. No shot attempts down the stretch. That's Armando Bacot, I mean, rebounding machine.
30 double-doubles this season. He fouls out late, but 30 double-doubles. I mean, he was incredible in this game.
And just when you twist your ankle like that in a game, and we've been in those situations before, and you hobble off the court. Fortunately, he went back to the locker room for 10 seconds, and then he ran back out. That was such a motivating and inspiring for his teammates. Very inspirational, because that ankle is going to be sore tonight. He's not going to do anything on tomorrow. It's going to be treatment around the clock, but very, very inspiring for Bacot to come back on the floor. And another, I think, key point was when R.J. Davis picked up his 4th foul. What was that? Was 6 minutes to go in the game? And Hubert Davis, again, didn't panic. Calm, cool, and collected. Left him in the game, and it worked out obviously well for North Carolina.
We were waiting to see Davis and Love play at a high level. They did at Cameron Indoor, and they both had over 20. 46 combined points from the Carolina backcourt. And Brady Manick missed some free throws, 3 out of 4 down the stretch, but he made an enormous 3. And I thought defensively, he held his own against Banchero. He also blocked 3 shots. Everybody threw. I mean, everyone had to play well. Leaky Black made some.
Yep.
And he is not a shooter.
No.
He made a big shot. Carolina deserved this win. I don't think Duke gave it to him. Carolina went out there and took it. They made the plays.
The Iron 5 continues to stand strong. I mean, this is incredible. The minutes they play, the high minutes, the high usage that they have, and they deliver in the biggest possible position going against Coach K, sending him into retirement. I mean, when you talk about this run, this is incredible in terms of what they've done. First round, they beat Marquette. Then they beat Baylor. Then they beat UCLA. Then they beat St. Peter's, who was on an incredible, magical run. And then they knock out Duke in Coach K's Final Four. This run is unbelievable.
And Hakeem, you know, you always talk about magical moments. Remember when they played Baylor? They were up by, 25 points with 10 minutes to go in the game. Brady Manick was on fire. He elbows one of Baylor's players. He gets ejected from the game. Baylor storms back. North Carolina weathered the storm. They win that game. Again, great leadership from the sideline. R.J. Davis was magical. I think that was a shining moment for North Carolina, and because of that, they were able to carry that momentum on. And here's the second thing I'll say. North Carolina did a really nice job of attacking Banchero on defense. They really made him work. They baited Duke into switching all of those pick and rolls, and sometimes they weren't successful, but for the most part, they were wearing him out. They were attacking him on the defensive end like he was a bad defender, and I didn't see any adjustments from Duke.
Consider that this team was a bubble team, right? I mean, we didn't even know if they were going to get into the tournament. They go on this run mid-February. They lose to Pitt. I mean, this is, you look at the team and people are questioning Hubert Davis, and now they've won 11 of their last 12 games. Like, what's happening here is in and of itself an amazing story when you consider the team. Hubert Davis in his first season, he made adjustments during the season. He put R.J. Davis handling the basketball, Caleb Love off the basketball, the evolution of the guard play, Armando Bacot, just an absolute monster. I mean, this is in and of itself. We talked about Coach K and the storybook ending, but North Carolina is on a run that we haven't seen in a long time, considering the opponents they have taken down, Tim.
You know what it is? When you're going through their roster, I just feel like everybody understands their role. And when I was watching the end of the game, I told Coach, I said, this game's going to come down to Caleb Love. if he's going to make really hard shots. And I started describing the UCLA game because that was a game that I felt like UCLA had control, and Love went out there and made some big boy shots, got big boy buckets, and they pulled out the win. Now, I know Coach was scratching his head on a few Caleb Love decisions down the stretch, but you could see the guys on Carolina were like, all right, bro, this is your time. Like, threw him the ball, and they were like, go get us home.
Yeah.
And he made the sweet drive around Williams, and he made a big three. They knew that he's a big-time shot maker. They lived with some of his mistakes, and he made some enormous shots in this one.
And you're right. I was a little nervous
What's he doing?
because at 7:06 and 6:16 in the second half, he turned the ball over 2 consecutive times. Threw one away, then he dribbled one off his foot.
You know Coach gets nervous because we're sitting there watching the game, and all of a sudden he starts pacing the sidelines. I go, sit down. You're not coaching. You're not coaching.
When you predicted that North Carolina was going to win this game, but our tarot card reader predicted an emotional upset, and that's what we have. We have an emotional upset. Coach K is done. This is it. He retires as Tar Heels, his biggest rival, send him into retirement in the Final Four. When you're in that Duke locker room right now, I mean, looking around at the players, what's the emotion? What's happening right now in that locker room, Avery?
I feel that even though Duke has had an outstanding year, you know, you make it to the Final Four, that's a huge accomplishment. There's been coaches that have been coaching for 30-plus years that haven't coached in one Final Four. But I think in some ways, because you're dealing with young people, these student athletes, in some ways, obviously, even more than anything, they're going to feel like they failed Coach K.
They did.
And that's
they
the,
did fail.
And that's the unfortunate part about it.
They did fail.
Yeah.
They lost the game. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's sports,
it's
Coach. I
more
don't know
than
what
just
to tell you.
It's more than just losing the game. Okay, Villanova lost in the first game, but I don't think in the back of their players' mind, especially without one of their best players, Justin Moore, that they feel like they failed Coach G right. They lost the game. I really believe, and that's why I picked North Carolina, I just thought it was just too much pressure for these kids, too much weight on their shoulders, and now they have to live with, they were on the team that Coach K coached in the Final Four, the last game of his career, and it ended with an L.
The big thing I would take away is we didn't go down with our star. You know, like, Paolo wasn't making the plays down the stretch. He wasn't making the decisions. They weren't putting the ball in his hands to score. I mean, I was talking with guys like Shelvin Mack, Wally Zerbiak. They think he might be the first pick in the NBA draft. He didn't take a shot the last 2:38 of the game. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care what sport you are. You want to go down with your best player, and you want to go down with that guy swinging. He didn't swing. You know, he looked at that.
You want him to be more aggressive. That's, of course, what you want.
But I want him shooting than anybody else shooting, and he didn't shoot.
And I think overall, Brady Manick won that matchup in terms of when he was on defense. He did a nice job of, you know, playing defense, you know, fouling when he needed to foul, smart when he needed to be smart. And there were times I think Banchero passed up some open threes just to be able to drive the ball and get the ball inside the paint. And that's what happens when you score 26 points in the paint in the first half out of 37. You think you want to continue to drive. Manick backed off of him, baited him into taking some jump shots. He didn't take those jump shots. He drove right into where Manick was, playing somewhat of a zone, and that didn't work out well for Duke.
It's one of the greatest rivalries in all of sports. Duke and North Carolina first met in 1920. This was the first meeting in the NCAA tournament, and it happens in the Final Four, Coach K's final season, and it turns out to be Coach K's final game. Now, after the buzzer sounded and the game is over, Coach K and Wendell Moore Jr. shook hands with North Carolina, but they were the only ones. So, a lack of class here. What's your reaction to end of game there?
Yeah, unprofessional. And we've had so many situations happen this year in the line to shake hands with coaches and players. And obviously, from a coaching standpoint, this is where your assistant coaches also come in play. Make sure that everybody's in line no matter how disappointed you are, even if you're crying, it's more than just the tears. You're disappointed, you're crushed, but you got to shake the opponent's hands and then go in the locker room and display whatever emotions that you have. Not a good look.
I love you. I completely disagree. I don't think you have to shake hands after the game. I think the coaches can shake hands, but when you played in the NBA, it was optional. Optional, right? If you wanted to go say, like, you're 18 and 22, you can buy a gun, you can fight for the country. The game is over, we lost, and I lost a lot at Northwestern. And those handshake lines were awful, especially when you get pounded on the road at Michigan State. And Tom Izzo saying good game. It's like, wasn't really much of a game when it was 80-40. I think it should be optional if the players want to shake hands. I'm all for the coaches shaking hands if they want.
That's a greater discussion. We're just talking about tonight's game in the Final Four in New Orleans. Sure, if they want to make a rule that the coaches only shake hands, great. But in terms of class and competitive spirit and sportsmanship, the expectation is when you win or lose in the Final Four until they change the rule, you should shake hands.
You lose with class. You win with class.
I'm not a handshake guy. These kids are signing NIL deals, so they're no longer amateur athletes. Professional athletes don't shake hands. I'm okay with that.
That's fine. You don't have you can have that. You can have that stance.
They can change the rule next year.
They can change it next year.
Yeah.
To me, what it says is this rivalry is hot because this is one of the best games in the history of the rivalry. The way this went down, what was at stake, Coach K's final game. I mean, this is one of those moments you're going to remember where you were at, what you were doing, watching. We, of course, got the great opportunity to be here to watch this. I mean, but this is an incredible moment in college basketball history.
And I think also, Tim, Hakeem, with the handshake line, remember there were reports that two of Duke's assistants didn't shake the opposing head coach's hand.
They cleared it up, though. They cleared it up.
But I'm saying that was what the report was. Okay, so, again, I just think let's not distract from what the storyline is. North Carolina was a better team.
North Carolina made more plays. That's it. Like you when you were talking about, you're gonna remember where you were.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna remember that Caleb Love put on his big boy pants and he made some big boy shots. And Brady Manick made an enormous three. He blocked 3 shots. Yes, he missed some free throws, but he ended up being an X factor. Baycott had 20+ rebounds. Like, North Carolina made the plays. I don't know. Like, I bet Duke. I had them first half. I cashed that ticket. I felt confident at halftime, but it was that run out of the second half by North Carolina. All of a sudden, that light bulb went off. Love started getting in a rhythm, and that's when he really took over the game.
And no rebounds, no win. They got beat on the boards 50-41. That's a telltale sign about North Carolina's physicality a little bit more than Duke, especially in the second half.
North Carolina and Kansas playing for the national championship on Monday. Hubert Davis looking to make some major history, looking to become the first full-time head coach to win a title in his first season. Have a Final Four, kids. Have a national championship, kids. And you can watch it go down live on the March Madness Live app Monday night from New Orleans. The March Madness Live app, download today.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.